I'll pass you on to Byron for this next one.
Okay, guys, so how long does it take your body to detox and reset itself with regards to the insulin malarkey, obviously, we put down there? Obviously, think of your lifestyle up to now incurring a health debt. So again, obviously, this area is obviously something that Nathan kind of knows quite a bit about anyway in terms of the insulin side of things. So we'll pass it back to you, actually, Nathan.
Okay, no problem. I'll take that one. So the way I look at sort of health debt is, if you imagine that you've got an overdraft on your bank account and you're £2,000 into your overdraft, okay, you get a win on the lottery of £2,000 and all of a sudden you're back to square one, okay, but you're not actually rich, you're not actually doing well, you're just back to a sort of a level peg. So what we're going to find with your health debt is the same sort of things happening. If you spent years and years eating the sort of the wrong foods, lots of sugary foods, lots of processed foods, having lots of alcohol, caffeine, all sorts of things like that, it kind of builds a bit of a health debt for you. And depending on how bad those foods were and for how long, depends on how deep into that debt you go. So for each of us, when we sort of detoxify our bodies and start eating clean and start eating healthier foods and exercising, becoming more healthy, it's going to take a different amount of time for each of us to start to really see the benefits, because you might find your initial 2 to 4 weeks, you might spend just working your way out of that health debt. And that's a really positive thing. You will start to feel better from that. But then you're just kind of bringing yourself back to ground zero. And it's in the following period after that, in the following months, where you really start to almost invest in your health and start to build up a positive account. And that's where we're then really starting to feel more energetic, more alert, to actually see our hair and skin and nails and things like that improving. And it's realizing that it does take that sort of time to achieve, and that there aren't those sort of quick fixes that we often go chasing. There's no sort of magic bullet, really. As far as sort of insulin, the kind of things we've looked at as far as insulin goes is that you can get quite insulin resistant, and this is what tends to happen with the deeper end sort of diabetes and things like that, the type 2 diabetes, the late onset stuff. Your body gets to the point where it becomes totally insulin resistant, so that when you have carbohydrates coming into your body creates insulin to store the sugars into the muscle, the liver, and the fat stores. But your cells that should be storing it become resistant to it. So you can't store it as well into the muscle and the liver where it's needed. So everything tends to go to the fat cells to get rid of it, or your blood sugar levels stay high, which becomes dangerous. And that's where diabetes can be quite a sort of a risk. So reversing that is possible by having a look at your carbohydrate intake and starting to control that. So most of your carbohydrate intake becomes more complex carbohydrates, more vegetables in particular, more complex foods like your sort of brown rices, things like that, and avoiding the more simple sugars like your white pastas, white rices, your sugary foods, sort of soft drinks, things like that, is going to give you the best possible chance of improving your insulin sensitivity, so that you can improve your health. Okay, I'll pass you over to this one, Byron.
Yeah. How does drinking so much water help you lose fat? I mean, obviously, as we'll go down the kind of list and we'll explain as we go through. So, obviously, reducing bloating. Again, with different types of kind of foods and that kind of things, especially the wheat we'll come on to later. That's obviously quite a big issue on that kind of side of things. Improve the circulation. Obviously, again, us taking a bit more water on is going to thin the blood slightly. So again, improve that circulation throughout our extremities. And obviously again, and the nutrition delivery as well. So speed that whole process up, which is obviously quite a good thing. Again, speeding things up and improving the digestion system. Again, reasonably straightforward, similar to the nutritional delivery side of that. Again, the main kind of one for us on this kind of topic is reducing the obviously toxic burden on the liver. So again, all the toxins that we generally put in our body, the chemicals that we put in our body through all the processed foods, again, so that's a build up. Obviously, our liver has to process all of them things. So again, because it's dealing with that side of things, it can't prioritize fat burning, which is a massive important thing. So the kind of fat burning side of things goes down to the very bottom of the list in terms of the liver's jobs to do for that day. So again, lots of chemicals put in our body. Again, we just start to clog all the systems up. And again, fat burning, massively important thing. So it can't do its role properly in a sense. So again, putting plenty of water in our body is going to help clear our system out and just relieve a bit of the burden on the liver side of things. Something that's kind of not on there is obviously just the dehydrated cells in our body. Again, have a very low metabolism. So massively important to try and keep our body and our cells nice and hydrated. Again, they'll work optimally, they'll work better on in that format. So reasonably straightforward, but it is a kind of general thing that everyone knows. They should drink more water, but it's just practically getting that into your diet is the thing we kind of struggle with the most in terms of passing it on to our clients, getting little tasks to kind of do through the day to do that. And so yeah.
Okay, is sleep important to aid fat loss? Too damn right it is. Getting your sleep right is essential. Basically, staying awake too long affects your hormones, and your hormones affect your fat loss. When you stay awake after sort of 10, half 10 on an evening, your cortisol levels start to rise. So your cortisol is your stress hormone. So you may have experienced this if you stayed awake to say sort of midnight, and you kind of get that, you get a bit tired, but then you get that second wind. That second wind where you suddenly awake and alert again is when your cortisol, the stress hormone, kicks in, and you can find then that you're awake for a few hours, or you then find it very difficult to get sleep. How does this affect us? From one point of view, if your cortisol levels rise suddenly and you then find it difficult to get sleep, you actually find it difficult to get into the deep sleep where you actually recover and repair your body. So from that point of view, your muscles aren't going to repair as well, so you're not going to hold on to your muscle mass, and your muscle mass burns a lot of calories for you, so that's going to affect obviously your calorie output, your energy output, so you're not burning as many calories in total anyway. From a more hormonal level linked into the fat loss, if your cortisol levels generally go up, your testosterone levels tend to drop down. When we're asleep, our growth hormone, our testosterone, all those sorts of hormones are supposed to elevate. That's supposed to be their sort of highest point of release during the day. If they're not elevating, you have an inverse effect with your estrogen levels. So when testosterone goes up, estrogen essentially relatively comes down. When your testosterone drops, relatively your estrogen levels are higher. And your estrogen within your body has a high affinity for sort of fats and taking it to the sort of the fat cells. And you particularly find that for women, there's a lot of receptors in and around your thighs and your hips and your bottom for estrogen, and you tend to store a lot of fat there. For men, you tend to find it's around the chest, so you tend to get the sort of the moobs, as it were. So that's because men have more receptors in and around the chest. So if your cortisol levels are high, your testosterone levels are low, your estrogen levels are high, and that encourages fat loss in those particular areas. So if we're not sleeping deep enough, we're affecting our recovery and repair, but we're also affecting our hormones, and that's going to encourage fat storage rather than fat loss. Okay, Byron.
Which is better for fat loss, going slower for longer or more intensive, shorter sessions? So again, we've had quite a few questions on this on the topic. So there's an almost inverse relationship of time and intensity when it comes to fat loss. So again, what we're kind of trying to look at is is can we train a bit clever, not just longer? So we're not just kind of training for the sake of it and training for long sessions and not making the most of our time there. So we can train a bit more intense and get used to them. Naturally, yeah, of course, we're going to kind of build up in terms of the intensity we look at, etc., etc. But we're trying to just train that bit clever and just try and intensify, keep them sessions reasonably intense, keep them reasonably short. Again, that kind of comes on to this whole kind of fat burning zone and the kind of confusion with that. Again, just working them lower levels. Back to nutrition, everything always falls kind of back to the nutrition side of things, and basically how our kind of body works. And we'll generally burn, obviously, our carbohydrate stores along with our fat stores, and this whole idea that you can just solely work on your fat stores and burn them on their own at this miracle fat burning zone is a definite kind of myth in that aspect. If we can train for them shorter sessions, obviously like Nathan was talking about, the sleep aspect of it, the nutrition, the water aspect, all them bits of the puzzle, if you like, in place, then we'll naturally burn that more fat long term. So there's not a miracle fat burning zone, as some people kind of believe, in that level that we look at with our cardio resistance trainers in Remata, but it's along them kind of same format. So it's important to tailor the intensity and time given to exercise based on your health, fitness, and individual goals. So obviously, just exactly. If you've got things that you're training for in particular, then obviously it's got to be specific to that as well in terms of intensity and time. Again, just covering the basic points along the top there. I don't know if you want to add anything in there, Nath.
Yeah, just going back to the sort of the fat burning zone myth. Basically, where that came about is that if you work at a certain heart rate, so a certain percentage of your maximal heart rate, you're actually burning a higher percentage of calories from your fat stores rather than your carbohydrate stores. So people took that then to say, well, if I only work in that heart rate zone, then I'm going to burn more fat than anything. So that's got to be good for weight loss. And you can kind of see the logic for that. But the trouble with that is working in that heart rate zone is such low intensity exercise that you don't burn very much calories in total. And what you actually find is that if you work at a higher intensity level, a higher heart rate zone, you're actually, the percentage that you're burning of fat compared to sort of say carbohydrate stores is actually lower. But because the total amount of calories burnt is so much higher, it actually means you're burning more fat in total anyway. So it kind of outweighs it, and it kind of means that the fat burning zone becomes sort of non-significant really as far as your training. It's more important to get the intensity right for the time you've got available, and make the exercises as appropriate as possible to what you're trying to achieve. Okay. So again, I'll leave you on with that one, Byron.
Can you get just as much benefit from doing weights as you would with a cardio session? Obviously, the whole kind of the concept that we kind of run within our fitness camps is a lot based on our kind of resistance type of training. We do have some obviously the cardio elements in there and some of the circuit training that we do, but again, a lot of bodyweight exercise, a lot of kettlebell exercises, etc., etc. So we do have kind of look at that quite intensely, and obviously we're looking at improved body composition, and that's where we kind of really lie. If we can start to affect our lean muscle within our body, that's the kind of main aspect that we kind of want to look at. If we can start to increase our lean muscle through our weight training side of things, then that's where we're going to start to boost our metabolism. We're going to obviously change that composition in terms of increase our lean muscle and decrease our body fat percentage. Massively, massively important. So when we look at kind of the weight loss aspect of it, then that's where we really want to ask ourselves, we're trying to reduce our body fat percentage. We're trying to reduce the fat that's on our body. So to do that, we need to obviously boost our metabolism. We need to increase our lean muscle tissue and decrease our body fat percentage. So we can achieve that again time-wise a lot better for us in terms of our kind of weight training. And again, there's lots of other benefits, especially for females in and around the kind of weight training. We've got that real kind of window of opportunity to increase our bone density and all them kind of things as well. So increasing that kind of lean muscle has a kind of big effect or on our metabolism, and obviously has a big effect on our body composition. So yeah, quite important really.